All right, we're live on Periscope now. Fantastic. How's your writing coming? How's your book coming? Are you almost done? I've got some people in the Nonfiction Book Academy that are almost done. They're so close. I'm so excited. I can't wait to be like working on their publishing with them and figuring out how to get the marketing done and the launch plans done. But first, we got to get the writing done, right? So that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about today, because I've heard some people going, God, I'm afraid my writing is so boring. And I get that. So there's a million ways to say the same thing, right? Which is why you can't obsess about your first draft and you can't obsess about editing, because you could edit it forever, literally forever. You could edit the same chapter, the same paragraph. That's why it took me 16 years to write the first book that I wrote, because I would write 3 chapters and then I'd go back and I'd edit 3 chapters and I'd edit it and I'd change it and I'd do things over and over and over again. And I never got past chapter 3. And I've heard from other people that they do the same thing. They do the same thing with like just 1 chapter, or they do it with 1 paragraph, and they just constantly trying to get it perfect. There's no perfect, okay? There is no perfect way to say it. There's only what feels good to you and that expresses what you want to say. There is, however, boring. And that has more to do, and I'm not talking about the topic, okay? Because you can have a dry topic and still make it incredibly interesting, okay? I'm talking about sentence construction. I'm talking about boring sentences, okay? I think that what happens in high school and when you're learning about this, maybe even in college, people don't understand it. And so they just sort of memorize it, get whatever the grade they get on the test, and then they forget about it. But there really is a way that you can construct your sentences so that they're not boring and so that people are engaged and they're more likely to keep reading because you're not putting them to sleep. And what we're talking about specifically is active voice versus passive voice. And I'm sure you've heard that before. It might ring a bell like way back in high school. It might be like giving you the cold sweats because you're like, I hated that lesson. But I want you to, so I'm going to show you a really cool trick. And I just learned this trick. I just learned it literally this morning from my editor, Julia Wilson, who is amazing. She's the editor that I sent all my books to from Thanet House Publishing. And she's like, oh, there's a really cool trick for that. I'm like, tell me what the cool trick is. I've trained myself over the years to not write in passive voice. I've trained myself. I will catch, because I've been writing for 30 years. So I'm at the point now where I have to think really hard to actually write a passive sentence. I have to try really, really hard. But that's because I have actively trained myself and I have like fixed it over and over and over and over again. And you guys probably haven't done that. So let's give you the easy trick. Number 1, how do you know when you're writing passive versus active? Okay, because there's a really long, stupid dictionary definition that doesn't help unless you're an actual writer or you're a grammar nerd, which, let's face it, most of us aren't. I am, but that's just because I'm weird. So how can you tell if you're passive or active? One thing is your sentences will be longer if it's passive. Active shortens your sentences because it makes it more sharp and punchy. When people say you have to tighten up your writing, that's what they're talking about, is shortening your sentences a little bit. But there is a tool that you can use. You don't have to guess, and you don't have to spend hours or days looking at a piece of writing going, is that passive or not? Go to your Word document, like whatever you're using. If you're using anything besides Microsoft Word, you can copy and paste it into Word, or honestly, whatever program you're using probably has the same tool. When you do a spelling and grammar check in Word, it will go through and it will do all the spelling and it will do all the grammar and stuff at the end of that scan when you're all done. And if you're going through an entire book, that can take a really long time. So sometimes you want to just highlight a little bit of it and see. At the end of that, there will be a little box that pops up that gives you a bunch of statistics, okay? It gives you statistics about the word count and the character count with spaces and without spaces. And it gives you the grade level that you're writing at. You always want to stick to like a 5th or 6th grade level. Not because your readers are stupid and not because you're stupid, but because that means you're writing clearly and easily. It's easy to understand, easy to read. But right now we're talking about active and passive. So it also gives you a statistic on what percentage of that passage, if it's the whole book or if it's just a little bit that you highlighted, is passive. And it will tell you, you're 89% passive, or you're 50% passive, or you're, whatever percentage it is, you want to shoot for like almost 0. My writing at this point after 30 years is about, sometimes it's at 3%, but usually it's at 2%, 2 or 1 or even 0. If I get 0% passive, I'm like, yes, I win. So you don't have to guess. It will just tell you. It will tell you what percentage you want to be. I wouldn't want any more than 30%. I would not even want 20%. You want to get it as low as you possibly can. So that is one huge, huge key to whether you're ready to move that draft into like sending it to an actual editor or whatever. So I want you to go, and even if it's just out of curiosity's sake, somebody says, what's an example of a passive sentence as opposed to an active one? I'm going to get there in just a second, because that's the zombie trick. That's the easy trick. But I want to make sure that you know how to find out whether it's active or passive, because I don't want you fixing sentences that there's nothing wrong with, right? So I'll get there. Hang on. All right, so now you know how to do it. You go to Word, you do your spelling and grammar check, you go right through, and it's going to tell you how much of that is passive. Try to get it as low as you possibly can, below 10% if you can, as close to 0 as you possibly can. And then, so this is during the revision stage. Your first draft is possibly going to be, sorry, I got a phone call. That was weird. Your first draft is going to be more passive, and that's why you're going to go through it again. You're going to go through it again. You're going to go through it again. And you're going to make sure that you're combing through and making it less and less passive. All right, so let's talk about what the heck is an example of passive versus active. And what's the zombie trick, right? What's the cool trick to make it really easy to tell? So let's take the sentence. The dinner was cooked. The dinner was cooked. That's passive. It's like, what it has to do with is whether the verb in the sentence, if you're a grammar person, the verb in the sentence, is it actually doing something or is something being done to it, right? The dinner was cooked. The cooking was being done to the dinner. So it's passive. The dinner's just sitting there and something's cooking it, right? Now, the trick is you add the words by zombies, or you can say by cheerleaders or by, pirates, whatever makes you happy. But Julia told me about the zombie one, so I use zombies. So if you can say the dinner was cooked by zombies, and it makes sense, like it's clearly passive. That tells you that it's passive. Now, what would be a better sentence? How do you make that sentence active? You take the words you need to use are already in the sentence, okay? But you need to take them and flip them around. So instead of saying the dinner was cooked by zombies, you would say zombies cooked dinner. You see how that shortened it up and tightened it up and also made it active, right? The dinner was cooked by zombies. Or zombies cooked dinner. Or zombies cooked the dinner. Either way. Let's try another one. The book will be written by zombies. Who cares? That's boring. Sorry, my nose is itchy. So how would you change that? Flip the words around. Zombies will write the book. That's better, right? We were told that the book was written by zombies. That's a really long sentence. We were told that. First of all, the word "that" is a huge clue that you're writing in passive voice. We were told that the book was written by zombies. How about we heard zombies wrote the book? So anytime you see the word was or is or will be, those kinds of extra little words will clue you in that you are writing passively and that you need to activate the word, activate the verb, make it active. Okay. Let's go over those again one more time. Active, passive, passive, active. So passive would be the dinner was cooked by zombies, by cheerleaders, whatever. Zombies cooked dinner. It's shorter, it's tighter, and it's active. Okay. Somebody is actively doing something as opposed to something being done to something else. Rather than the cooking being done to dinner, the zombies are cooking dinner. They're actively doing something. They are in the act. That's what active means. They are in the act of doing something. Or they were in the act of doing something in the past tense, or they will be in the act of doing something in the present or the future tense. So let's try that again. The book will be written by zombies. Zombies will write the book. Instead of will be written, you're going to say will write. Because written, will be written, actually be written is like, it's passive. But will write is it's an act. You're in the act of doing it. Okay, so it's active. We were told that the book was written by zombies. We heard zombies wrote the book. Now I have Elvis Costello running in my head. Every day I write the book. Anyway, I hope that makes sense, and I hope that that's helpful to you. If you have questions, write them in the comments. I'll look at them. I don't have questions running on my screen right now, so I can't actually look at them and answer them right now, unless you're on Periscope and I can actually check like that one I just did. I hope that was helpful to you on a Friday. If you are even remotely in doubt as to whether or not you're writing actively or passively, go check it out with Word. Just do a one-page scan and see how much. What's the percentage that you're using the passive voice? Because just that one thing, changing that one problem in your writing is going to improve it 1,000%. 1,000%. And it will mean the difference between somebody reading your book all the way through and thinking it's great and somebody just like falling asleep or just not even deciding that it's not worth their time because it's just, they can't get into it. If you can't get into a book, one of the reasons is because it's being written in passive voice. It's just not, I don't even know how else to explain it. Fix this one thing and you'll be so much better off. All right. It's Friday. I'm heading out for the weekend. I can't wait to be back with you guys on Monday. 9 a.m. We'll be back here. I'm Julianne Eason from Thanet House Publishing. If you want to follow me on Facebook, you can find me by searching Julie A. Eason, or you can find me on Twitter at BizBookWriter. It's all right down here. And if you want to join me for a live masterclass on writing nonfiction books that inspire, educate, and sell, you can do that. Wait, let me hang on just a second. Here's the URL where you can go to do that. We have a fantastic time. This week we're going to talk about how nonfiction authors and business people like coaches, speakers, experts, entrepreneurs, even local businesses like dry cleaners and restaurants and locksmiths and retail stores can use a book to build their business and make real profits. Like 99% of books that are written by business people never make a dime. And there's a very specific reason why they don't, and I'm going to do that on the masterclass this week. It's going to be Wednesday night at 6 p.m. So if you want to, 6 p.m. Eastern time, and there's a replay. So if you can't show up live, you can always get the replay through your email. So if you're interested in learning how to write books that inspire, educate, and sell and make profits, go ahead and sign up on that masterclass link. And I will see you on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye.